Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a phenomenon that pretty much all of us experience, but very, very few of us actually see happening in real time. We are setting the stage for a deep investigation into the invisible forces that are driving modern overspending. And spoiler alert, it is not just about a lack of willpower. No, it's about a highly engineered system designed to target the oldest, most primal parts of our brains.
Okay, let's dive into this. Think about it. Why does paying $50 four times feel so much cheaper than just paying $200 up front? I mean, mathematically, it's exactly the same, right? But psychologically, it feels like a tiny fraction of the cost. Well, this is a little trick behavioral economists call the numerosity effect. Buy now, pay later platforms use this exact illusion to trick your brain into shuffling a major, hefty expense right into your everyday casual spending budget. It's sneaky.
So, moving into Section 1, the invisible debt trap. To really understand our current financial landscape, we've got to stop looking at consumer debt as just some personal failure. It is a highly engineered structural trap. To really grasp the massive, honestly alarming scale of this crisis, just look at this number. $1.7 trillion. That was the record amount of American credit card debt sitting there at the end of 2024. That's enough to make your head spin. And while credit cards are a known factor, there is this entire shadow credit system growing right underneath it that's making the whole problem significantly worse. And the reason this shadow system is so incredibly dangerous, it all comes down to friction. Credit cards, for all their faults, give you one unified, painful monthly bill. That flash of absolute discomfort, that's actually a built-in check on your overspending. But buy now, pay later platforms replace that single painful sting with these painless, completely fragmented microloans that are just scattered across different apps and due dates. The debt is entirely camouflaged. Which brings us to Section 2, your brain on shopping. Let's uncover our ancient vulnerabilities. To see exactly why this camouflage debt is just so irresistible to us, we need to move away from the digital interface on your phone and go directly into your neurobiology. We're going to uncover the specific, deeply ingrained vulnerabilities in our heads that modern retailers are actively exploiting. It all starts with something neuroscientists call the limbic hijack. Imagine what we'll call the purse scenario. You find this amazing, high-demand item, it's almost sold out, and you've got your credit card in hand. That intense tension triggers a massive surge of dopamine that literally suppresses your prefrontal cortex. That's the logical, forward-planning part of your brain. In that split second, your rational executive function just completely shuts down, and the desire for immediate reward takes total control. And what's truly fascinating here is the stark difference between wanting something and actually liking it. Our dopamine system is primarily driving that wanting phase, the anticipation, the craving. The neurological high actually hits its absolute peak before your transaction is even completed. No way, right? But that is exactly why you experience immediate buyer's remorse. Your brain was just hunting for the dopamine rush of making the purchase, not necessarily the item itself. Let's jump to Section 3, weaponizing the digital checkout. Okay, so once e-commerce platforms fully understood our dopamine pathways, they started actively weaponizing them. They built these algorithmic architectures specifically designed to shove you from wanting straight into buying before your logical brain even has a chance to intervene. Historically, there used to be a built-in psychological pause to shopping. Think about it. You had to physically drive to a store, walk around, find the item, and actually open your wallet to hand over cash. Today, one-click checkouts and saved payment data mean you barely have to move your thumb. By completely eliminating that physical friction, the digital checkout just hands the keys over to our impulsive limbic system. And this brilliantly illustrates the real-world consequence of this totally frictionless environment. It's staggering. Payments on buy now, pay later platforms are actually 8 times more likely to be missed than your standard credit card bills. 8 times. Because the friction is just gone. Users fall right into what's known as loan stacking, which is taking out multiple microloans across a bunch of different platforms until they completely, utterly lose track of what they even owe. There's a consumer psychologist who hit the nail on the head with this quote. It's less psychologically painful to spend your future money than your present money. When we use these digitized installment plans, we are intentionally deferring the pain of paying onto our future selves. All that natural discomfort that used to correct our spending behavior, it's just been completely stripped away by a sleek interface. And when we look at how this alters our real-world habits, the numbers are just wild. 409%. Research shows that when people pay with actual physical cash, their average transaction is about $22. But the second they switch to cards or digital payments, that average absolutely skyrockets to $112, a 409% increase. Basically, when money doesn't feel real, we just spend vastly more of it.
Moving on to Section 4, the scarcity mindset tax. Now we really need to zoom out and look at the whole macroeconomic system, because the structural reality of our everyday lives is perfectly setting the trap for this impulsive, dopamine-seeking spending to take root in the very first place. For decades now, wages have remained largely stagnant, while the baseline costs of just surviving have soared. Average rent right now requires the equivalent of 3 full-time minimum wage jobs, and childcare, that can easily penalize a family's genuine attempts to save. For a huge portion of the population, generating any kind of financial surplus is just mathematically impossible. So the crucial point here really boils down to this number, 13. The constant, grinding mental effort that it takes to manage extremely limited financial resources creates a massive cognitive load on a person. Behavioral economists have actually proven that the mental burden of financial scarcity literally depletes your cognitive bandwidth. It effectively drops a person's IQ by 13 points when they're trying to make decisions. Let that sink in for a second. This cognitive depletion forces the brain into a state called tunneling. When you're tunneling, your brain is focusing exclusively on immediate, urgent survival needs. It is absolutely not a lack of intelligence, it is simply a lack of bandwidth. Long-term financial planning, like saving for retirement or even just having the energy to avoid a microloan, becomes nearly impossible. Why? Because the brain is entirely consumed with just getting through the present week. Okay, Section 5, reclaiming your financial agency. Let's talk solutions. I know all of this sounds incredibly daunting, but hey, here is the really good news. Because we now actually understand the mechanics of this trap, we know the neurology, the algorithms, the systemic pressures, we can engineer our own escape plan. Your very first line of defense is a deliberate environmental redesign, starting with the 72-hour rule. When you feel that sudden impulse to buy, you absolutely must manually reintroduce the friction that the internet erased. Step away for 72 hours. And this isn't just about waiting around, it's literally a biological necessity. It gives your suppressed prefrontal cortex the time it desperately needs to cool down, re-engage, and make a completely rational decision. Let's hit some rapid-fire strategies you can actually put into practice today. First, start curating wish lists instead of shopping carts. This actually gives your brain a nice little micro-dose of that anticipation dopamine, but without the financial hangover. Next, delete your saved credit cards to force a physical pause. Yes, make yourself actually get off the couch and hunt down your wallet. Try paying for things in physical cash for a bit, and actively schedule dedicated no-spend days. Doing these things manually shifts your brain out of a reactive scarcity mindset and straight into an empowered, intentional abundance mindset. It's a total game changer. I want to leave you with this final, kind of provocative thought. The modern economy has entirely commodified convenience, but it almost always comes at the expense of your future self. So the next time you find yourself hovering your thumb over that brightly colored checkout button, just pause and ask yourself, are you avoiding a little bit of friction today just to pay a massive price for it tomorrow? Thanks so much for exploring this explainer with me. There is just so much power in finally seeing the invisible clearly.